Markets hit record highs even as billionaire forecasters keep getting the economy wrong. Taylor Swift bypasses late night TV, making her biggest announcement yet on a podcast. Meta overhauls its AI after revelations of inappropriate chats with minors and racist content. Oklahoma rolls out a controversial teacher test critics call a new form of right-wing wokeism. And the Epstein scandal surges back into the spotlight, with Congress, survivors, and political fallout closing in on Donald Trump. Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker. Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. We've got a fun, action-packed show for you today. Issue 1, markets hit records, but predictions still a gamble. The S&P 500 and Dow closed at record highs this week thanks to strong retail sales showing Americans are still spending. Retail sales rose 0.5% in July, exactly as economists predicted. United Health jumped after Warren Buffett, Michael Burry, and David Tepper disclosed big investments for the week. The Dow gained 2%. That's as of earlier this week. The market is not closed yet on Friday. The S&P 500 rose substantially. The Nasdaq also posted solid gains despite hotter than expected wholesale inflation data midweek. But while Wall Street's numbers look great, history shows even the richest and most famous market forecasters often get it wrong. Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki has predicted an imminent market collapse almost every year since 2011. Tony Robbins, somebody I like in general, warned of a massive downturn in 2016. Instead, stocks climbed for years. Even Warren Buffett and Michael Burry have had famously bad timing occasionally. Nobody knows the future, not even the billionaires. Okay, so what's the real message here? Is the market hot right now? Yes. Is it perhaps overvalued? Yes, but nobody knows if this is the time to sell for you. Even if it is the right time to sell, nobody can tell you with pinpoint accuracy when you should buy again. So beware, I urge you, beware of people who come on CNBC and Bloomberg and Fox Business News with confidence telling you, you have to sell this now or buy this product now. They're just trying to line their own pockets. So let's go a little deeper here. Every single time the market reaches an all-time high, the easiest way for somebody to get a lot of attention, to get a lot of headlines, is to say, the market is headed for a crash. Sell everything. Buy gold. Buy guns and gold. That's the easiest way to get attention. And unfortunately, it's easy to get sucked into that because you'll see somebody, a Dr. Doom, for example, or somebody who got it right 15 years ago or 22 years ago. There's all sorts of situations where somebody made a big call once, they got it right. And now for the rest of their life, they're making the same big call. You know, the guy who predicted the financial problems in 2008, who was the subject of The Big Short, he's been wrong continually ever since. So you've got to be extraordinarily wary. What William Goldman said about Hollywood, nobody knows anything, is equally true when it comes to Wall Street and where the market is going. Yes, you can say, all right, valuations are at historical highs, it has to come down. Yes, but you don't know when. If you say it's coming down and it comes down 7 years from now after incredible gains in the next 6 years, you didn't do yourself any favors or anyone else. You don't get any gold stars for being a Wall Street prophet. Predicting a recession is kind of like this guy, Peter Schiff, who every single day of the Obama administration warned about how inflation was going to destroy the world. There would be just world-class, astronomically high inflation. Never came. during the Obama administration. So you've really got to be aware of anyone making outlandish predictions, high or low. Occasionally, are they right? Yes. But statistically speaking, it's so rare. That's why it's a bit glib to say, oh, conventional wisdom is always wrong. Well, conventional wisdom is not always wrong. If it were always wrong, all you'd have to do is pick the most contrarian viewpoint and we'd all be billionaires. The problem with conventional wisdom is it is right most of the time, but not all the time. Certainly conventional wisdom among economists, they all missed the 2008 crash. And the biggest example of conventional wisdom being wrong was just a couple of years ago, when the conventional wisdom was that we were going to see a massive recession 2024. All the economists in 2023 predicted it. Didn't happen. So you just never know. Be careful of people you see on TV, and yes, on YouTube, where I am right now, giving you bold predictions about exactly when and where the market is going to do something. I'm not afraid to tell you, I don't know. And if you really want to gain trust, if you want to get trust from anyone, don't tell them you know everything all the time, because you don't. And when you see someone who is projecting absolute, complete confidence that the market is going to be at an all-time high 6 months from now, or all-time low, and sell, that's when you got to grab your pocketbook and realize, or your wallet, and realize they are trying to sell you something, because that's typically what is happening. I'm TJ Walker. Thank you for joining me today. This is Filtered with TJ Walker. This is the show where we filter the news. We look at the top business, technology, and culture stories of the day, filter it through the lens of communication skills, as well as personal development, all with the goal of making you more successful in your professional life and in your personal life. The thing that's fascinating about how people talk about finance is it's almost inversely correlated. The more confident you are, the more likely you are to convince people on TV about the market going up or down, the less accurate you are. I'm in the middle of reading Barry Rothholt's book of how not to invest, and he goes through this in great detail. I've read enough of it to predict or to recommend the book to you. Barry Rothholt's well-known money manager, former trader, and an excellent book. I'd urge you to take a look at it. Shivam writes in today. Shivam, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for saying hello. Let me know what's on your mind. You're joining us today from LinkedIn. So happy you're here, and always happy to see friends from LinkedIn. We are live today on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, I believe Instagram as well, plus Twitch. Soon, on September 2nd, we'll be podcasting on every podcasting platform as well. New, we'll have more information, more stories, more topics in just a moment after these commercial words. Filtered is brought to you by the following. You don't need a new degree. You don't need another expensive coach. You need the right communication habits, and I'll teach them to you in just a few minutes a day. At MediaTrainingWorldwide.com, I've created the most comprehensive library of online communication and personal development courses anywhere. You'll learn public speaking, media training, persuasion, executive presence, and more. These are the same methods I've taught to world leaders, but now they're affordable and accessible to everyone. You can start for free and upgrade anytime. Go now to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Confidence isn't a personality trait, it's a skill, and it's trainable. Most people can't afford a full-time coach, and even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40-plus years of real-world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question, get feedback on your elevator pitch, Rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to become a better speaker, leader, or communicator? Start with the TJ Walker Success Library. It's 5 of my most practical books, covering everything from public speaking to media interviews and persuasive messaging, all for only $9.95. I've trained presidents and Fortune 500 CEOs, and now you can get the same wisdom in a fast, affordable format. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download your copies instantly. Celebrities trade talk shows for podcast. Taylor Swift's latest album reveal didn't happen on late night TV or in a glossy magazine. Instead, she joined her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, on his New Heights podcast, racking up nearly 9 million YouTube views in just 12 hours and drawing more than 1 million live viewers before a glitch cut the stream. Podcasts have become the new press tour stop for big stars, offering long, lightly edited conversations where guests feel safe from gotcha questions. Publicists now chase spots on Armchair Expert, Call Her Daddy, and Hot Ones the way they once fought for late night bookings. For Swift, who rarely grants traditional interviews, the podcast format means more control over her message. And for the Kelce brothers, it's a ratings windfall as their show navigates changes after Amazon's restructuring of Wondery. In today's media world, a 2-hour podcast can make a bigger splash than a primetime interview. Okay, so what's the real message here? If you are a celebrity, a business owner, a creator, podcasts are the new it girl, the new it thing, so to speak. It is where you want to be because you can connect with your fan base at a deeper level. Letting them into your life for an hour or two is infinitely better than 5 minutes on The Tonight Show or some other show that everything is scripted and tight and focused and practiced and rehearsed. There's an immediacy and a freshness to podcast. The only question I have is why Taylor Swift, why bigger celebrities don't do things exclusively on their own podcast, even if they only do 1 episode a year. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Is this good for mainstream media or journalism or major TV networks? No, they're losing out. They're losing out on audience. They're losing out on a big hook. If you're someone like Taylor Swift, I think your attitude, and I can't blame her, is, what do I care about you for? I run my own media company. Taylor Swift is a media company. She creates albums, obviously, and music downloads, and concerts, and live experiences, and books, and other paraphernalia. She is, by all accounts, a wildly successful businesswoman. She's had the most successful tour of all time. So she doesn't do that by willy-nilly throwing away control of her image, her likeness, and what she actually owns. So it's obviously going to be a safe environment for her to be interviewed on her boyfriend's podcast. The boyfriend is not presumably going to do anything to make her upset or make her uncomfortable. It's a friendly environment. And we're seeing not just celebrities like Taylor Swift, but you see people like Elon Musk increasingly seek out opportunities on friendly podcasts rather than sit for a formal interview with 60 Minutes or the New York Times. So this is yet more and more bad news for traditional media. I won't say mainstream media because the Kelce brothers getting tens of millions of views and listens and downloads, they are mainstream, frankly. They're a lot more mainstream than a local 11 o'clock newscast in a mid-tier market, which is seeing their audiences plummet on a near daily basis. It's certainly more mainstream than a local newspaper in market 100, whatever that is in the United States, which is seeing its audience melt away on a daily basis. So I don't think you can look at things in terms of mainstream media versus new media anymore. It's really all media. Everyone's fighting for eyeballs every way they can. Everybody is online, even if they still have a traditional broadcast tower. It's coming to most people's homes through an internet box. So everyone's competing and everyone's doing what minimizes risk for them. If you're a big time TV network, you don't typically give out primetime slots for sitcoms to people that no one's ever heard of. You're going for the big stars who already have a following. Well, it's the same thing with Taylor Swift. She wants to mitigate risk, and she can do that by only going on podcast formats, friendly shows, ones where she feels like she has complete control and she knows she's going to look good and sound good. So where is this a problem? I think it's increasingly a problem in the political world, where you have people in their own bubbles where they don't have to take hard questions, especially hard questions based on facts, from anyone who disagrees with them. We are seeing a balkanization of political discourse, not only in America, but around the world. And I'm old enough to remember the old days when you had a show like Crossfire. You had a Pat Buchanan debating a Tom Brady. You had not every single idea and ideology represented in a debate with you, but you did have the two main dominant theories about how the world should work in a United States democracy represented in a show like Crossfire. Yeah, the left felt excluded, libertarians felt excluded, but you did have a clash of ideas where facts mattered. You don't have that anymore. Now, I don't want to sound like a fuddy-duddy and say, oh, the good old days were so much better. I'm not saying it was better then. It's certainly a lot better now as far as more ideas being able to be communicated and shared in the world. But there is a problem, especially in a political context in the United States, where people can just live in their own bubble and they don't have to deal with facts that are unpleasant to their ideology, their worldview, their legislative agenda. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to be resolved anytime soon. And John Steen saying hello. It says Pat Buchanan 2028. Tell you, John, it did make me feel a little old to see earlier this year, Pat Buchanan essentially retired. He retired his column. I don't think he's doing any more TV appearances. I haven't seen him on Fox News. If I'm wrong, then please someone correct me. But he was sort of the old guard, prototypical multimedia pundit. Those of you who don't remember Pat Buchanan, he rose as one of the first early young assistants to Richard Nixon, went into the White House with him, and then left and became a syndicated columnist, and then a radio commentator. CNN started, his radio show went to CNN, and that was the original Crossfire, and has been a wildly famous, successful pundit ever since. He also ran for president a couple of 2 times, and in many ways sort of paved the way for a non-politician like Donald Trump to actually capture the White House. Good, bad, we'll leave that up for debate on another day, but a little aside there. More in just a moment. Hey, if you're enjoying this kind of take and want to hear more stories filtered through the lens of communication, make sure you're following the show, whether you're watching or listening. New episodes drop every single day. And if there's a little notification option where you are now, go ahead and turn it on. It helps you stay in the loop. Meta overhauls its AI after a disturbing report. Meta is rewriting its AI content standards after a Reuters investigation revealed internal guidelines that allowed chatbots to have sensual conversations with minors and make racist statements. The 200-page Gen AI content risk standards document approved by Meta's legal team even provided acceptable examples of romantic role play with a high school student and statements claiming Black people are, quote, dumber than white people. Meta spokesperson Andy Stone called the examples erroneous and inconsistent with policy, saying they've been removed, but he admitted enforcement has been inconsistent. The revelations raise serious questions about AI oversight and corporate accountability, especially when the rules themselves appear to be green light harmful content. Okay, so what's the real message here? The message is if you are relying on artificial intelligence as used by big, profitable, trillion-dollar companies to protect your kids, you're in big trouble. It's up to you to protect your kids. And if that means taking the phone away, putting controls on it, then you need to do so. Because it's just not as profitable to hire people to constantly check whether you're Facebook, whether you're Apple, whether you're Google, whether you're any social media platform, and check, are we putting out garbage to people's kids and telling them to do weird, crazy stuff? It's not profitable. It's a lot more profitable to write a few lines of code and just wait until there's criticism and fix it later and ask for forgiveness later. That's the bottom line. Let's go a little bit deeper. We've seen it time and time again that when companies, whether it's Google, whether it's Meta, whether it's IBM, all sorts of companies that have dabbled with AI and start the chatbots going, all sorts of crazy stuff comes out. And on the one hand, you don't want to stifle innovation to the point where you say, oh, well, nothing can be released until it's perfect. We don't want to do that. But at some point, if you're a big enough company with enough resources, let's spend a little more monitoring things in real time with real people. And nothing against all the fact checkers in Africa who have to look at obscenity and grisly deaths and murders online all day long as a part of standards for $2 a week or whatever low fee they're paid. The big US-based companies need to have some people in the US to bring a sense of what our standard, and they should do it in other countries for the content that's being put out in their countries as well. I don't mean to sound like people in the US have some unique ability to figure out what's a proper, improper thing for kids. There's got to be more scrutiny. And unfortunately, the zeitgeist right now is, let's just put everything out there. Let's get as many eyeballs, as much profit as possible. And if we just don't delete anything, no one can accuse us of censoring anything. We saw Meta famously get rid of all of its fact checkers because of criticism from the current administration. They figured, okay, if we actually check facts for things like people lying about vaccines or lying about the fact that who won the last election, we're going to get put out of business by a right-wing authoritarian regime. And why risk it? So the whole mode of operation right now in Facebook and other big social media companies is let's not be accountable. Let's not bring anything even approaching journalism. Let's just say we're like the phone company or a platform. Two friends want to get on and share conspiracy theories. Not our problem, nothing to see here. The difference is in the old days and even today, if you and I want to get on the phone and talk amongst ourselves, spreading nonsense and conspiracy theories, it can't spread to millions of people. It can't start genocide. It can't start riots. That's what's different about social media. Once it's out there, not only can the whole world see it, it is designed through its algorithms to spread much, much faster if it incites hatred, if it incites anger. That's what gets picked up. That's what's spread. That's what's shared. That's what's amplified. And that's what is corroding all civic trust and corroding many of the institutions in our world. And that's why I think I'm concerned. I know a lot of you are concerned as well. So what's the real lesson here for you and me is we have to be accountable. And I say this, you could say, oh, TJ's a hypocrite. I'm using AI. AI helped write the introduction scripts for these shows. I use AI to create some of the graphics you're seeing here. So I'm not saying you got to put the genie back in the bottle and none of us can use AI. That's not my message at all. But we all have to be careful. We all have to scrutinize. If you find me making a mistake, let me know, and I'll try to post a correction right away. And if it's a recurring mistake, I'll try to find a different AI system. I do use the pro version of ChatGPT from OpenAI. Maybe it's not the best one. They do a pretty good job, but I'm open to the idea that there are better ones out there. So I'm going to constantly be vigilant. I hope you are as well. And if you're a parent, I think if you just say to your kid, hey, I'm busy, and you've got a 10, 11, even 12-year-old, say, here's a phone, here's an iPad, go have fun. If you don't limit their access to social media and the internet, I really think you're no different than a parent giving a pack of cigarettes or a bottle of vodka to a 10-year-old. Presumably, you wouldn't do that. I'm TJ Walker. I want to thank you for joining me today. This is a new show. This is a show that's a little bit different from a lot of other shows out there. We are not one of these shows that just wants to scare you and gloom and doom and look how awful everything is. There are bad things going on in the media and in the world around us every day. There's no doubt about it. But this show is a little bit different. We try to look at the top business, technology, and culture stories of the day, filter it through the lens of communication skills, all with the goal of building your personal success, making you more successful in your personal life and your professional life by having a better understanding of what's going on and what's really going on behind the scenes. There's some interesting things going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes in Oklahoma right now. Let's take a look at that story right now. Oklahoma's anti-woke teacher test shows rise of right-wing wokeism. Oklahoma has launched a new screening test for teachers, moving from liberal states. It's designed by PragerU, a conservative media company that isn't an accredited university. It just says it is, a little bit like Trump U. We're going to dig into this story a little bit deeper. State officials say it will keep out woke indoctrinators. The test focuses on American exceptionalism, biological differences between boys and girls, and rejecting what it calls gender ideology. Critics say it's a political loyalty test that pushes factually questionable claims, like PragerU's videos falsely crediting America with starting the global abolition of slavery and promoting intelligent design as a science. This is right-wing wokeism. That's what it is. The same intolerance conservatives accuse the left of, and they are now codifying this into policy. That is a problem. It's a gatekeeper for educators. So we're going to look at this a little more deeply. So what's the real message here? The message is, yes, wokeism is a real problem in America, but the biggest problem is right-wing wokeism. It's the rise of intolerance of people saying, anyone who hurts my feelings by saying America was ever less than perfect, oh, you hurt my feelings, boo-hoo, you're not allowed to teach anymore. That is wokeism. It's political correctness run amok. And right now it's getting the stamp of approval by right-wing governors, presidents throughout the United States. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. What is going on? When you see conservatives, MAGA, and Republicans talking about cancel culture, what they're really upset about quite often is not that someone is canceled, it's that they want to be doing the canceling. So now we have a situation where really just a right-wing hack. Prager University is set up by a guy named Dennis Prager. He's just a BS guy who has been doing BS talk shows his whole life. He's not head of some university. It's like Trump you. Now, I teach people. I have online courses, but I don't call this T.J. Walker University. University is supposed to mean something. And now, through lobbying, through political correctness, Dennis Prager has sort of wormed his way into significant influence in the state of Oklahoma, where in order to be a teacher, you're supposed to buy in to various claims, including the idea that no one ever thought of getting rid of slavery until the idea popped into Americans. Well, that's just not true. Now, it is true that slavery has existed in virtually every culture and every society. That part is true, and they do talk about that. So there's nothing uniquely evil about the United States creating slavery. We didn't create it. But the idea that we're the first ones to ever thought of, hey, maybe we shouldn't have slavery, that is just absolute right-wing claptrap. And the idea that you can't be hired as a teacher unless you buy into that claptrap, that is cancel culture. That is wokeism, and it's not coming from anybody on the so-called left. It's coming from the right. We're seeing it every day. One story we're not even going to be able to get into today in detail is how the Trump administration is applying right-wing wokeism to the Smithsonian, saying it's not even allowed to tell people the truth that Donald Trump was in fact impeached, not once, but twice. So we're seeing this whitewashing of history, this changing of history. This is what was warned about in books like 1984. This is what totalitarian regimes do, is they want to completely control the narrative of history. They do not believe in the very concept of objectivity of fact-based worlds. They believe only in ideology. And we're now seeing it seep into our public school systems. And it's an absolute travesty. Speaking of travesties, the issue is not going away. You might not have seen it for a couple of days, but the Epstein crisis is about to get hot once again. More in a moment. Filtered is brought to you by the following. You don't need a new degree. You don't need another expensive coach. You need the right communication habits, and I'll teach them to you in just a few minutes a day. At MediaTrainingWorldwide.com, I've created the most comprehensive library of online communication and personal development courses anywhere. You'll learn public speaking, media training, persuasion, executive presence, and more. These are the same methods I've taught to world leaders, but now they're affordable and accessible to everyone. You can start for free and upgrade anytime. Go now to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Confidence isn't a personality trait, it's a skill, and it's trainable. Most people can't afford a full-time coach, and even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40-plus years of real-world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question, get feedback on your elevator pitch, rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to become a better speaker, leader, or communicator? Start with the TJ Walker Success Library. It's 5 of my most practical books, covering everything from public speaking to media interviews and persuasive messaging, all for only $9.95. I've trained presidents and Fortune 500 CEOs, and now you can get the same wisdom in a fast, affordable format. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download your copies instantly. Epstein scandal still haunts Trump. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal is about to reignite when Congress returns next month. Oh, are we going to be hearing about this? Lawmakers plan to force votes on releasing the Epstein files and will bring survivors to Capitol Hill. Several court cases over those records could also see rulings soon. The Justice Department under Trump recently issued a memo rejecting conspiracy theories, insisting there's no client list and affirming Epstein's death was suicide. But Rolling Stone is now reporting that Trump has privately complained that victims are Democrats trying to make him look bad, even as his name reportedly appears in case evidence. Survivors say they've been ignored, blindsided by Ghislaine Maxwell's quiet transfer to a cushier prison and erased from the process. Some accuse Trump's allies of portraying Maxwell as a victim to pave the way for a pardon. With new subpoenas, court deadlines, and public hearings ahead, the scandal is gaining momentum, and Trump's behavior is starting to look less like confidence and more like the actions of a man with something to hide. Okay, what's the real message here? Write it down. The Epstein scandal is not going away. You can solve the war in the Ukraine. You can take away citizenship from Rosie O'Donnell. The Epstein crisis is not going away. Once Congress comes back in session, there are going to be a lot of members of Congress, not just Democrats, but also Republicans who really want to know the bottom line. Now, Donald Trump, I have to give credit to, is usually a master at handling a crisis. He's so good at it because he can always say, oh, you're accusing me of this bad thing here? Well, wait a minute. Here's something 1,000 times more atrocious here to change your subject and to get you distracted. He has not been able to do that this time. He also keeps picking at it and doing all sorts of self-inflicted wounds. Now he's saying that it's all a Democratic thing. Well, really, that's the issue, because the number one faction in America who's given the most attention to the Epstein scandal for years has been his own MAGA base. They have been obsessed with this. And the idea that, the 16-year-old girls who were victimized by Trump all had some extreme partisan agenda, that's nonsense. Okay, let's go a little bit deeper here. Trump is really acting like a guilty man. Do I say, look, I have right here sworn testimony from young girls saying he did horrible things? No, I'm not going to be some demagogue. This is just a piece of paper. I don't have that. But I am a human being with eyes and ears, as are you. We have a lifetime of looking at how do guilty people act, how do innocent people act. I'm not a court of law, but it is extraordinarily bizarre to see someone like Trump, who, when he's accused of felonies and convicted of felony after felony after felony, more than 30, to basically say, no problem, bring him on. I don't care about any of this. He's like that. Someone who's found sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, he's like, no problem here. I'm basically proud of it. And continuing to smear, happy to talk about that. This whole Epstein file thing comes up and says, oh, nothing to look at here. Don't know anything about it. Hardly knew the guy. And then changing his story every single day. That's truly bizarre. Now, I will say one thing in Trump's credit. One thing that surprises me, frankly. I'm a little bit surprised that at this stage, we haven't had some 37-year-old woman come forward and say, look, I was 16 and a half, I was 17, and I was invited to a party at Jeffrey Epstein's house, and I spent the night intimately with Donald Trump. Or I spent 3 minutes intimately with Donald Trump. That hasn't happened publicly. And I have to tell you, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't. Based on his behavior, based on how quickly he's trying to push this issue off the front pages. Would I be surprised if something like that did happen? No, I would not. I don't think anyone would. And what happens then? This happened in United States jurisdiction. If something like that were to happen at Epstein's Island, that was in the United States Virgin Islands. And the age of consent then and now is 18. A big question I have is how many of Donald Trump's supporters, after all of his scandals, after all of his crimes, after insurrections, after police officer dying after January 6th, the blood on the hands, putting refugee children in cages, after all of that, would any of his supporters care if actual facts, sworn testimony came out showing that Trump did sexually abuse a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, or even a 14-year-old? Again, I'm not saying there is any evidence. I'm simply asking the question, would it change anyone's perception about who this man is? Would he lose any political support? I don't know. I mean, that's one reason why this issue has mystified me. I've always thought he might just say, look, I was a young, good-looking stud, and I had women of every single age, and they were all over 5 feet tall and all over 10, and that's all that. I'm frankly surprised he's never said that, because I thought that if he would, certainly decent people everywhere would be outraged, but that it would not in any way affect his political standing and his support. So the whole issue continues to be a mystery to me and others, and that's one of the reasons why it doesn't seem to be going away. And Trump can try to spin this as a democratic thing, but it's just not going to fly. And maybe they do drag Bill Clinton out of retirement up to some stage to give a deposition, although I don't think that's going to happen, or to be grilled in front of Congress. Bill Clinton's not on the national stage anymore. He wields no actual power. And to try to spin, and there's no pictures of him and video of him with Bill Clinton looking happier than he's ever looked in a day in his life with Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, they did spend some time together. Clinton doesn't deny it. They flew together on airplanes. Clinton doesn't deny it. But there is by no means the long track record of numerous social holding parties together where they were the only two men there, of the naughty letters going back and forth. There's simply no track record. There's no one saying that Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein were best friends, the way there is a track record of that with Epstein and Trump. So it's one thing to try to spin things, but when you attempt to spin in ways that just nobody's buying at all, when there's just no credibility, it just doesn't gain traction. And that's the part that Trump is having a problem with. His base is fascinated by this Jeffrey Epstein scandal. They think that he's part of a worldwide cabal of wealthy, powerful elites who control things, control the universe, control the economy by day, and by night, and I guess by day, they're having sex with children because they're all pedophiles. That's very much a core part of the MAGA mindset. And they're not going to let it go. And the fact that Epstein died when President Trump was in power the first time, it didn't seem to penetrate their bubble of how this works, because they're still in this filter that only liberal Democrats and progressives are a part of this worldwide elite. And somehow the fact that, well, Trump was this successful billionaire by that time anyway, and that he was seen socializing and partying with Epstein more than anyone else, that he's the only guy really on record as saying he likes young, pretty girls as much as Epstein. It's not seemed to penetrate his base, which is kind of odd. You would think that if you believe in conspiracy theories, but you love Trump, you'd be like, let's talk about any conspiracy theory let's go talk about JFK assassination. But they're still fascinated by this, which I personally find fascinating as well. What's the real lesson here for you and me and others? You can insult people's intelligence. You can do it once, you can do it often, you can do it a lot. But at some point, there are limits, even for Donald Trump. My advice to you is tell the truth, speak the truth. If you are a part of a crisis, come clean, admit what happened, make amends. And then if all you ever do is say, not my fault, it's somebody on another team, somebody in another political party, the media's out to get me. At some point, if that's your only message again and again and again and again, at some point, crisis fails. I'm TJ Walker. I want to thank you for joining me today here on Filtered. Please join me tomorrow. Even though it's the weekend, I'm having so much fun looking at the top stories of the day with you. I'll be back. See you then.